In this lecture, you will be introduced to how the Acadience Reading Oral Reading Fluency Assessment is given and scored. You will practice scoring an assessment and see an example of progress monitoring with oral reading fluency. When Acadience Reading Oral Reading Fluency is given for universal screening, 3 passages are used. The assessment needs to be given under the standardized administration and scoring procedures. Every student should have the same testing experience. Students read for 1 minute from each of 3 passages for universal screening. The passage is taken away and the student has up to 1 minute to retell about what he read. There are several scores generated, including a words correct score, which predicts and indicates reading comprehension, an error score, and the words correct and error scores are used to determine the accuracy score. There is also a retell score and a retell quality of response rubric rating. Oral reading fluency is commonly used for screening and progress monitoring. It helps to find students who aren't decoding accurately and fluently enough to support comprehension. Because Acadience Reading Oral Reading Fluency is a standardized test, the administration directions should be read verbatim from the scoring form each time it's given. This is one way to ensure each student has the same testing experience. The passage is put in front of the student at a particular point in time during those directions. In grades 1 through 3, there are 2 narrative and 1 expository passage used for screening. In grades 4 through 6, there are 2 expository and 1 narrative passage. All of the passages are controlled to be at the same level of difficulty. All students read from grade level passages for universal screening. Timing starts when the student reads the first word of the passage. If the student reads the title, that's fine. You shouldn't read the title to the student. Regardless of whether or not the student reads the title, or this timing starts when the student says the first word of the passage. There are shortened directions for passages 2 and 3. As the student reads, the assessor follows along and marks according to the scoring rules. Place a bracket after the last word the student read before the time ran out. Students are scored based on what was read in 1 minute. Here are examples of what counts as a correct word. Words that are read correctly within 3 seconds, and reasonable phonetic pronunciations of proper nouns are scored as correct. Inserted and repeated words are not counted. Errors that are self-corrected within 3 seconds are scored as correct. There's no penalty in scoring if a student mispronounces a word due to articulation difficulties, dialect differences, or speaking a first language other than English. All words read correctly are left blank. So what counts as an error when scoring oral reading fluency? Basically, if a student doesn't read what was printed on the page, it is marked and counted as an error. Errors include substitutions, skipped rows or skipped words, hesitations of more than 3 seconds, words that are read out of order. If a student makes an error on the same word multiple times within the minute, it is an error each time. Errors are marked with a slash. Following the 1 minute passage reading, take the passage away and reset your timer for 1 minute. Read the retell directions verbatim. As the student is retelling, count words that are about what was read from the story. Don't count words that are not about what was read from the story. That includes words that are about the student's own life, repeated words, although minor errors and inaccuracies are scored as correct. Give a prompt if the student hesitates for 3 seconds during the retell. There is a quality of response rating you can use which provides a rubric on your opinion of the quality of the student's response. Remember, the purpose of the retell is to find students who are accurate and fluent readers, but who can't at least talk about what they've read. This is to find that very small percentage of students whose fluency is not correlated with their reading comprehension. This is a quick way to find those students who would otherwise fool you. Here is an example of a scored Acadience Reading Oral Reading Fluency passage. The total words is the number of words on the page up to the bracket, where the student stopped at the end of the minute. Subtract from the total the number of errors. That gives you the words correct score. The retell score is simply the number of words in the student's response that were about what she read from the passage. Oral reading fluency is a standardized 1-minute indicator of reading comprehension that can be used for universal screening and progress monitoring in grades 1 through 6. It is a direct assessment of reading fluency and reading comprehension. In the next lecture, you will learn how to interpret the Acadience Reading oral reading fluency scores.